A tractor tax is more likely to hit working farmers than wealthy landowners, a think tank has told Reeves. I'm going to read into this more from the Independent, you guys. So it says that the Labour Chancellor was warned over her planned inheritance tax raid on farms. So there is two sides to this. Obviously, the government's position is that they believe that the inheritance tax is, they call it tractor tax or tax on farmers and whatnot. It's inheritance tax specifically. They consider it to be the government argues is to go after the wealthiest landowners more than anything, rather than working farmers. However, the argument from this think tank is saying it's actually going to proportionally hit working farmers instead. Now, my position has always been on the case of is that I think that there are a lot of farmers out there there are some very good farmers, very important farmers, and we need to protect their businesses. However, there's a lot of people with the likes of Jeremy Clarkson who claim to be farmers where they're not, and they're simply avoiding tax by using the loops that's available for them by claiming to be farmers when they're doing the bare minimum. So there is that side of it, and there is obviously wealthy landowners who are just taking the mick here when it comes to the wealth that they have, and this is the kind of people that the government is trying to target, but in doing so they appear to be hitting working farmers as well. So am I still in favour of the tax that the government goes in? I'm kind of gone more sitting on the fence to being in for it when it first came out, but let's read more into this, and I'm going to show you a conclusion factor from Grok at the end of the video as well to hear what it has to say with regards to this as well. So Rachel Reeves should water down her inheritance tax rate on family farms to protect workers, according to a think tank that championed the controversial Labour policy. So the Centre for the Analysis of Taxation, that's CenTax, which has been broadly supported of the idea of the so-called tractor tax, warned that landowners were less likely to be impacted by the reform than working farmers. The move will increase pressure on the Chancellor over her plans, which critics say could sound the death knell for many family farms. The changes mean that farms valued at $1 million or more will be liable for 20% inheritance tax. The Treasury said that with tax allowances, in reality, only farms worth $3 million would be affected, around 28% of family farms. That's always been the argument. But official DEFRA figures appear to suggest as many as 66% could be hit. Ministers have defended the changes, saying that they had to take difficult decisions in the wake of what Labour says was a £22 billion black hole in the public finances left by the last Tory government. However, CenTax has now said that the working farmers are more likely to suffer under the policy, despite Labour's claims to protect working people. It suggested two ways the policy could be better targeted, including capping inheritance tax relief to the first 10 million of a claim and allowing 100% relief to 2% per estate. It also suggested a minimum share rule to remove inheritance tax relief for passive investors in farmland so that they cannot be used as a tax shelter, which sounds very good on paper. Last year, the Minister Daniel Zaraga told MPs the government had introduced the plans to protect small affairs. He said currently small farms can find themselves facing the same level of tax bills as much as larger farms, despite having much smaller assets. 20% of agricultural property relief is claimed by the top 2%. 40% is claimed by on the top 7%. Doesn't sound right, does it? That is just not fair. It's not sustainable, and sadly it has been used in some cases by wealthy landowners to avoid inheritance tax. And this is why the government has announced plans to reform agricultural property relief. CenTax found that just 20% of landowners' estates would be hit by the tax, compared to 25% of tenants' farmer estates, 45% of owned farmer estates, and 67% of mixed tenure estates. CenTax said landowners are less likely to be impacted by the reform than working farmers, representing 47% of all farming estates, but 42% of the impacted farm estates. Owners farmers representing 17% of all farms estates, but 37% of impacted farm estates. Mo Metcalfe-Fisher from the Countryside Alliance said Labour's ministers repeatedly said that they want to protect genuine family farming businesses while tackling inheritance tax avoidance through inheritance tax changes. This evidence, however, points to being these very families and their farms that will be badly impacted by the policy as it stands. There is still time to listen to experts from the farming sector and rethink the policy before it's too late. Ms Reeves is currently under pressure to find $250 billion hole in the government's finances, according to the National Institute of Social Research. Now, I think that Rachel Reeves should consultate with the farms on this. Yes, I do think she should consultate and try to come with some compromise. And the think tank has some decent suggestions that I think are worth looking into as well. So I want to read this conclusion, because I asked Grok for some extra analysis on this, guys, because I think that would help better with my thoughts on this as well. So it says here that the claim that the tractor tax is more likely to hit working farmers than wealthy landowners is supported by evidence from CenTax, the CAAV, and farming organisations like the NFU, that's the National Farmers Union. Working farmers, particularly owned farmers and those with mixed tenure estates, they face a high proportion impact due to their reliance on the APR and the BPR and limited liquidity to cover tax bills. Now, while the government argues that the policy targets wealthy tax avoiders, its broad application and flawed estimates suggest it disproportionately affects genuine farmers. Wealthy landowners with greater financial flexibility are better equipped to navigate or mitigate the tax. So that's what it says in terms of conclusion there. Very interesting thoughts there, I would say, there to add to it from Grok there, just to add more information on this. I think, yeah, they do need to rethink it. I do think they need to start having a talk with farmers and need to speak to farming experts, because nobody wants to see farmers suffer. Nobody wants to see farmers go under. And at a time when everyone is struggling, literally everyone is struggling, we are in a cost of living crisis, and it is so important we protect British farmers. We need to look at how we can protect working farmers much more, and not targeting wealthy landowners here. And it does appear to me that perhaps they've not had enough discussions with the National Farmers Union and other farming experts in making sure that they protect those lands and protect those workers, because they really do matter for Britain as a whole. So what do you guys think? What do you think about the so-called tractor tax? What do you make of the analysis from the think tank? Do you think Grok is right by saying that the government have got this wrong as well? I think, yeah, I'm starting to think that perhaps maybe the government needs to have a real rethink on this. Let me know your thoughts and more down in the comment section below. If you found this video interesting and informative, hit the like button, share it across social media, subscribe if you haven't already. Check out Rumble and Patreon for exclusive content on those platforms. And if you want to financially support me and the work that I do here on this channel, you can do so by becoming a YouTube member for as little as 99p. So thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to catch you all very, very soon.